going back and playing some of the older COD games recently got me thinking, is classic COD actually better than new COD? Or is it just nostalgia and rose-tinted glasses? Well, today we are going to find out. We are going to be ranking every Call of Duty multiplayer from worst to best. And first up, we have the worst multiplayer in all of Call of Duty history, Black Ops 4. I hate this game. I despise this game. It doesn't play like a Call of Duty game. It is a hero shooter. It's terrible. Super high health, lower player counts. This game is really a product of the time. Overwatch and other hero shooters were really popping off at the time, and Call of Duty was kind of, doing their best to copy their homework. They changed so many little mechanics as well that it just kind of breaks my brain. Every single time I play it, like, half of my buttons are dead because shit is on cooldown. I just can't stand it. It's a super frustrating experience, and it's easily the worst multiplayer in Call of Duty history. Mostly because it doesn't play like a Call of Duty game. I'm really happy that this was kind of a one-off thing, and most of the changes that they made for Black Ops 4 stayed on Black Ops 4, and they just never moved forward, and they didn't kind of bleed into the franchise as a whole. But to say something positive about this game, because I hate to put a Treyarch game right here at the bottom of the list with a bullet, you know what I'm saying? It's like, not even close. It's absolutely the worst, and I do love Treyarch. One thing about Black Ops 4 that's very striking is its fantastic visual presentation. The game looks amazing, the design is fantastic, but that doesn't come anywhere close to salvaging this complete misstep of a multiplayer. Next up, we have Advanced Warfare. It was the first game in the EXO COD era, and I hate it, just with a passion. I never want to play it. I think Advanced Warfare would actually be a reasonable game if it wasn't Call of Duty. You know what I mean? Like, if it was its own thing, if it was a brand new franchise, I think it actually could have been kind of fun. But when you put Call of Duty on it, I have a certain set of expectations, and this game just fails to meet those. And I feel like the general COD community kind of agrees with me that this isn't a great game. When I went back to capture footage for this game, there were 0 servers on PlayStation, so I had to play against bots. And I can't tell for sure, but it seemed like the bots didn't even want to be there. I'm generally inclined to give people a lot of credit for innovation, and maybe they try something and it doesn't work out, but this game just doesn't do it. Like, it ushered in an era that no one asked for. It was a real dark time in Call of Duty where we lost a huge segment of the community. And even by EXO standards, this game is whack as fuck. Like, later on, there's other games that actually kind of pulled off EXO in a kind of fun and engaging way, but this game was just a total miss. It was chaotic, it was messy, it was silly, and although I shouldn't hold it against it, it was also the first Call of Duty game to have loot boxes in it, so you know what? Fuck this game. Call of Duty 3. Oh wow, I didn't realize I put 2 Treyarchs this low on the list. This is actually Treyarch's first Call of Duty game, and it's firmly first generation COD. It had these big open maps. They put vehicles in for some reason. That was weird. Like COD 1 and 2, this was also a class-based shooter where you had to pick between a preset role with weapons and stuff, and nobody actually played the role they were supposed to play. They were picking the class based on the primary weapon, of course. I was kind of blown away, but I mean, the servers are still popping, at least on Xbox. Like, you could jump in and play Call of Duty 3. At least right now, there's people playing, and I was like, what? What's going on? This is crazy. Is it 2023? Like, what's happening? The campaign was good, but even at the time, people didn't love the multiplayer. Call of Duty 3 was a pretty big departure from what Infinity Ward had established with Call of Duty 2, and so fans at the time didn't really like it then. It never really had much of a community. I think it kind of still hangs around as a bit of nostalgia and as a kind of odd footnote in the history of Call of Duty, but I mean, Treyarch went on to bigger and better things relatively quickly because their next Call of Duty game was actually World at War. But yeah, this one isn't so great. I did have one friend back in the day who absolutely loved this game, and I think it was because it was his first online game ever, and you never forget your first. Vanguard. I actually thought I was going to put Vanguard a little bit higher on the list, but then I went back and played it. So let me start off with something positive for Vanguard. The engine is amazing. Like, it is so smooth, so buttery smooth. Even with, Blitz 18 players, it plays fantastic. Unfortunately, the core gameplay here is just super annoying. It's also a World War II game, which is kind of boring, frankly. I mean, I ranked a lot of the World War II games pretty low. Not that I'm not interested in history, but I just think it's a really, really boring place to kind of set what's supposed to be a fun, fast-paced shooter. The maps in Vanguard are actually pretty decent. The weaponry is kind of okay, but just really, it all comes together in the most mediocre package ever. And it's actually really annoying for the most part. Every time I get into a game, it's super frustrating. I think another thing that made me really mad, and it's not just Vanguard, frankly, it's all of the modern generation Call of Duties. Ever since they instituted disbanding lobbies, going back to older Call of Duties is really, really difficult. You know, just to play 2 games of Vanguard, I had to wait, 25 minutes because there weren't many active players. They kept booting me back to the main menu and then trying to reconnect me essentially to the same very shallow pool of people online. It took forever. The connection was terrible. It was just overall a really lackluster experience. So I feel like this game, even maybe Modern Warfare 2019 and a few others, eventually they're going to become just utterly unplayable. And not that people wouldn't be online playing them if they could, but just the matchmaking is so tedious and so problematic that they're just not even going to bother anymore. I didn't hate Vanguard when it first dropped, but every single time I've gone back to it subsequently, I like it a little bit less and less. It just doesn't excite me. It doesn't do anything particularly well. It's not the absolute worst Call of Duty ever made. Of course, that's Black Ops 4. We firmly established that. But it just feels like this fucking hodgepodge of all things COD. It doesn't have its own personality. Its personality is like thirsty trying to be Call of Duty rather than just organically being something cool, fun, and engaging. Infinite Warfare. Yeah, I don't like EXO Call of Duty. That's probably pretty obvious at this point. I was not happy when they dropped the reveal trailer for this game. I definitely was part of the people who mass disliked it. It's not a horrendous game in general. I think the campaign is really good, and I quite like Infinite Warfare Zombies, but the EXO era multiplayer is just pure trash. And I'm going to keep saying that as well, because you could kind of sense that the nostalgia starting to set in. And people are like, oh, are we going to get a Infinite Warfare 2? And then they're like, oh, you know what would be great if we got another EXO Call of Duty? No. That is just nostalgia talking. These games are actually fucking terrible. Nobody wants them, please. Oh my god, if Activision hears us and makes another EXO COD, it might be the end of the franchise. Speaking of, next up is Black Ops 3. Easily the best of the EXO Call of Duties, by far. Treyarch came in big. They got it super duper right. The shooting feels great. The jumping feels great. Everything feels great. Unfortunately, it's just an EXO COD. This game definitely had the best set of EXO maps, very thoughtful, well-designed play spaces that really let you kind of take advantage of the EXO movement in new and unique ways. I'm really fond of this game in general. I mean, I love, obviously, Zombie Chronicles, and I've played probably more Black Ops 3 than a lot of other games on this list in terms of like how long the disc has been in my PlayStation. But the multiplayer is just a hard miss. It's super frustrating. I also really hate that they locked totally fun DLC weapons behind loot boxes, and there's really no hope to ever earn them or get them or do anything with them. That's really frustrating. You go back and try to play and you're like, oh, I'd love to maybe experiment with a new gun. Oh yeah, I forgot. They locked them all behind like $10,000 worth of fucking, loot boxes in the store. That's stupid. Call of Duty 2. Call of Duty 2 was an Xbox 360 launch title, and it was really the first Xbox Live COD that took off. It kind of set the foundation for what the franchise was going to become in the later years. It's an important game in the history of Call of Duty. I just don't love it. And it's almost like the game knew I didn't love it. I went back and played it, and I found a server with other real human beings. But the map was on Brecourt, which is the precursor to Wasteland. So it was on this like big, massive open map, 3v3. It was like a little slice of punishment for talking so much shit about this game. Sniping was pretty out of control in this game. Of the era, it was another one of those class-based shooters where you kind of had to pick your kit. There wasn't a lot of variety, but it did offer a level of mastery. If you really understood your kit and you really got familiar with it, you could become really, really, really lethal. And the popularity of this game was pretty greatly helped by the fact that the Xbox 360 launched without a Halo game. It took multiple years for Halo 3 to come out, which gave Call of Duty an awful lot of time to kind of gain steam and gain momentum. Call of Duty 3 and Call of Duty 2 were pretty much uncontested in the online shooter space. And this game can really be credited with creating the foundation of the community we have now. Call of Duty Ghosts. This was another game that had 0 people playing on PlayStation, so please enjoy footage of me battling the bots. Call of Duty Ghosts is a very weird title. It spanned multiple console generations, so it appeared on 360, PS3, PS4, and Xbox One, and of course PC. Honestly, it looked bad on every platform. This game has always kind of looked like trash. It came out directly after Black Ops 2, which was like this mega fan favorite. So in a way, it was almost kind of doomed to fail because, you know, it was the follow-up act. If you're a rapper, you don't want to go on after Jay-Z, you know? It had a super duper fast time to kill, and it kind of played like the Modern Warfare franchise, but it wasn't the Modern Warfare franchise. It was kind of like great value brand Modern Warfare. At this exact moment as well, there was a lot of franchise fatigue going on. Call of Duty had some really, really intense popularity. It was like the biggest entertainment franchise in the world for about 5 years. And general audience members were just kind of getting sick of it. Like, they had kind of had their fun. They had prestiged a bunch on all these games. They were kind of getting nowhere fast in terms of their enjoyment with Call of Duty. And they were moving on to other franchises. So Ghost saw a relatively big exodus in terms of like the player base, a really wide shift in terms of like content creation. Streaming started to be a thing during Ghost, which completely changed the kind of complexion of what the media surrounding the game looked like. And the mechanics here just really weren't that fantastic. The shooting didn't feel great. The netcode was not particularly great. The maps were terrible. They had these like weird Levolution events, which was just a ripoff of whatever Battlefield was doing at the time. They changed the class system and made it incredibly fucking complicated. They took pick 10 and made it pick 1,000. A lot of the changes they made just didn't work, and it was really the first time in the franchise where you felt as though they were changing things just for the sake of changing things. As if the designers were starting to feel the pressure of that franchise fatigue and people getting bored with Call of Duty. So they just started trying to mix it up for the sake of mixing it up, but they weren't actually making the game any better. They just kind of moved things around and changed it to change it. They weren't changing the content per se, they were just changing the label on the can. I don't think it's a bad game, and I think in terms of this list, Call of Duty Ghosts kind of represents a turning point where, as everything that kind of came before this, you know, Advanced Warfare, BO4, Vanguard, Infinite Warfare, these are games I don't want to play. Like, you know, unless I'm making content about them or, you know, of course, playing like alternate modes like zombies, I'm not just going to go back on and jump on and play multiplayer for the fun of it. But Ghosts? I actually do once in a while. Like, maybe once or twice a year, I'll boot that up and see what's going on. I was actually a little disheartened and sad when there were no lobbies available. So, not a bad game at the end of the day. I don't think... Is it a good game? No, probably not. But I still think it's kind of playable. Call of Duty 1, where it all started, the original Call of Duty. This game was a PC exclusive. It eventually got ported over to consoles, you know, many, many years later. But it never really had much of a community. Call of Duty 1 really kind of lives and dies on PC. There's still a community there as well, courtesy of mods. Unfortunately, I was unable to get my own footage, so I'm just going to throw some kind of, you know, generic background footage on in the background, probably some campaign stuff. I eventually got around to playing Call of Duty 1, but I really kind of joined the franchise around Call of Duty 2. By today's standards, this is really kind of bare bones. It's one of the few games in this list that really kind of feels its age. It feels like a 20-year-old shooter. But a lot of the hallmarks that went on to make this franchise so successful are present here. Quick, responsive gunplay, fantastic map design, great art design, cinematic scope and approach, great sound design. Call of Duty 1 really was a fantastic game for the time, and even nowadays, it's still a really fun game to play. It's bare bones as hell, but there's a little bit of charm to that. World War II. Going back and looking at my list, I'm realizing that I ranked like all of the World War II games really, really low. I think World War II is fun. It has great maps, great gunplay. It's got a great pace. You can really kind of get aggressive. About midway through the lifespan of World War II, they actually went in and did an entire revamp of the perk system. Never seen that happen before. Most COD developers won't even admit when they've totally broken the game. But Sledgehammer actually listened to the community and went back and adjusted some really core systems to make sure that World War II was as good as it could be. This game was right on time. After 3 years of EXO Call of Duty, we just wanted to have boots on the ground, nothing more, nothing less. I actually really like the core gunplay here. I had way more fun going back and playing than I thought I would, actually. This game gets a bad rap for being kind of, boring and slow. I don't think so at all. It feels like this great mix of kind of contemporary design philosophy, but kind of like classic Call of Duty feel. I think it's really fun. I think it deserves like a definite middle of the pack kind of ranking. It's hard to put it much higher because pretty much every game after this is going to get, pretty classic pretty quickly. The list is definitely heating up. World at War. For a long time, World at War was kind of like the redheaded stepchild of Call of Duty. It was sandwiched in between COD 4 and Modern Warfare 2. Two, all-time greats, and then right in between here is World at War. Most people kind of look over the multiplayer and just kind of skip right to praising zombies. And I don't think that's fair. The multiplayer here is really, really, really fun and engaging. The dogs? Come on, they were the first game to put in dogs. The maps are really good. The sound design is actually really excellent as well. There's a lot of meaty thuds and great gun sounds in multiplayer. There's gore and dismemberment. I mean, that doesn't count for a lot, but it counts for something, right? I mean, it makes it feel more visceral and real. This may be an urban legend, but as the story goes, this entire multiplayer suite was put together in 6 months. Basically, Treyarch was working on their follow-up to Call of Duty 3, which was going to be another World War II game. And after the success of Call of Duty 4, Activision mandated that they basically do a copy and paste multiplayer suite for their title as well. And so they just took a lot of assets from Call of Duty 2, which was at that point, an older title, an older World War II title. They changed them a little bit. They stole basically some variables from the COD 4 gameplay, and you can kind of see it in the gameplay as well. There's one-to-one parallels between damage numbers between different kind of sets of weapons and whatnot. Under the hood, World at War is really just Call of Duty 4 reskinned it with a World War II coat of paint. But that's not a bad thing. They took what worked, they innovated in a lot of different ways, and they made something really kind of fun. It's a great game. The thing that truly holds World at War back, and it's kind of a meme at this point, but it's fucking true, MP40 Juggernaut. Well, that and fucking tanks. Tanks are terrible. No more vehicles in Call of Duty. Stop it. Just stop it. Modern Warfare 2019. This game is so interesting to me. I didn't realize how slow it plays. In my mind, this was a really fast, gunfighty ass Call of Duty, and it's really not. It's slow and tedious and very faux tactical. Graphically, the animations, everything about the presentation of 2019 is outstanding. But there are a lot of downsides, the map design in this game. Oh my god. It's almost franchise low. It is so bad. Every map on this game is such a fucking struggle. I tend to favor the lower time to kill games though, so I really like a decisive, quick, get on target, shoot first, kill first kind of game, and Modern Warfare really delivers. I don't know if history is going to be super kind to this game. When we look back on it in a few years, I think it's going to be pretty easy to summarize the success of this game by pointing out that there was a lot of things going on in the world that was, keeping a lot of people indoors at that time in history in 2020. And this game benefited a lot from the fact that, people suddenly found themselves with a ton more free time. Of course, having a free-to-play battle royale also fueled that as well, and it was kind of like lightning in a bottle, and 2019 became this big kind of cultural phenomenon where for a brief moment it looked like Call of Duty was going to be king of the shooters again, it was about to reach peak popularity yet again. But some of the gameplay decisions here are just fucking bad. One of the things that really irks me is I hate the changes to the minimap. Don't change the minimap. It's been the same way for 10 years. When people shoot an unsilenced gun, they should appear on the minimap. Full stop. The end. But for the most part, this felt like a great evolution of the Modern Warfare systems that have been in play for, quite a long time. The new weapon system was fantastic and a much welcome addition. But overall, Modern Warfare 2019 is a great game, and it's still a great game. I'd say pop it in right now and play some, although it does suffer from that really super laggy matchmaking, by the way. Just like Vanguard, it took me forever to find a match. So if you love Modern Warfare 2019, you might want to get on, get on nowish and start experiencing that game again, because who knows how long these servers are going to be active. And what really, really, really restrictive skill-based matchmaking is going to do to matchmaking moving forward over the next couple of years, we really don't have any clue. We're starting to see it now, and it's kind of strangling the life out of these like late-generation Call of Duty games. Cold War. Man, I want to love Cold War. I want to love Cold War. I want to put Cold War even higher. I love the art design. I love the gunplay. It's got a relatively long time to kill, but I actually think it plays really nice. The gunfights are really nice. There's so many fantastic maps. Cold War did one thing that absolutely broke the game though, and I gotta, deduct points for it. The kill streak system. I don't know what leads the developers to believe that they have to go in and reinvent entire systems, like legacy systems that have been in the franchise for a long time. But for Cold War, they gutted the kill streak system and they instituted this score streak system that took away the requirement of having to stay alive, so you could maintain your streaks while dying. But the side factor of that meant that they had to amplify the overall point cost for every streak. And since they were so expensive, it meant that even really great players couldn't really loop their streaks multiple times per match. You could maybe get a big kill streak once. I'm not even really a kill streak guy. Like, I tend to use lower streaks and just spam them a lot, like UAV, counter UAV, and then something annoying like a Pred missile or something. But this weird artificial kind of point, it almost acted like a point timer. So no matter what game mode you were playing, it kind of played out the same. It was like, around 5-minute mark, people are going to start calling in choppers. Around the 7-minute mark, that's when the big stuff could start rolling in, etc. It turned every round into like kind of the same tempo and the same pace. Really, really, really don't like that. Also, sometimes you join late because, you get backfilled into a match and they're just like, here you go, here's a UAV. You joined late, so we're going to compensate you some skill streak points. Here you go. It's like, that's fucking annoying. Everything about it is kind of obtuse and counterintuitive. And that kill streak system disproportionately affects different game modes. Modes like Domination, where you can get a lot of objective points really, really quickly. Suddenly, like, you could have a lot more variety, a lot more kill streaks, a lot more things going on in the match. It was way more exciting. But TDM was boring as hell, which is such a weird design move because TDM is like your bread and butter. That's like the mode that everybody plays. And then you create a kill streak system that is like worst served in TDM. I think that's a relatively serious and sizable gripe, but besides that, I really like everything else about Cold War. I think it's a really fun game. I just wish Treyarch hadn't gone in and made such a radical change to a really fundamental system like kill streaks. I mean, it's one of the pillars of Call of Duty. It's what makes the franchise the franchise. I do respect that they were trying something different, but, I gotta call it how it is. It just didn't work in the case of Cold War. Otherwise, really, really fun game. I actually, I play it for fun. I not even when I'm making videos or anything. I just play it for the sake of playing it. There's some really great maps. It's one of my favorites, actually. I really enjoy Cold War. Modern Warfare 2 2022. Man, this game, it's good. It's a good game. Every time I play it, I have a ton of fun. But if I had to summarize my feelings on it, it would be missed opportunities. It definitely feels like 6v6 multiplayer kind of got the short end of the stick this year. They have Warzone, they have DMZ, Ground War, they were doing raids. Meanwhile, the game launched with like a handful of maps and they barely put any additional in. And we were just talking about Cold War and how they went and changed a fundamental system. Well, Infinity Ward did the same for Modern Warfare 2 when it comes to the perk system. They put perks on a timer and you could then get it faster by accruing points. So the higher your score, the quicker you would get your more powerful perks. Absolutely fucking hate it. They stated at one point that they were trying to give every match kind of a satisfying sense of progression. For me, it's just inconsistency. A match of like kill confirmed is 7 minutes. Why should I spend 5 of those 7 minutes without ghosts? I don't understand. This is just stupid. But speaking of ghost in particular, that's a tier 3 perk, which means nobody starts with it, which turns every match of any mode into a race for the first team to get a UAV. The first UAV helps their teammates get other UAVs, which helps other people get other kill streaks, and then suddenly it's a fucking steamroll because one person got the lowest streak in the game. And also, like the kill streak system from Cold War, it disproportionately affects different game modes. You know, it really, really slows down TDM. The Modern Warfare 2 isn't as slow as Modern Warfare 2019, but it is a pretty darn slow game by Call of Duty standards. The map design here is a big step up from 2019, although they made some like really odd, just low-key released some of the worst maps ever created for Call of Duty ever. The gunplay in this game, though, is pretty darn phenomenal. Like, every gun feels really unique and fresh. The sounds are great. They shoot great. They feel great. Like, just, you know, getting into a gunfight in Modern Warfare 2 is a fucking ton of fun. You can get kind of silly aggressive, too, which is, like, totally up my alley. I like just hard rushing everybody all the time. This game could have been great. It absolutely could have been great. Okay, for a minute, just, you know, in your imagination, imagine if A, they fixed the perk system and that was kind of a traditional system, and B, you know, they filled this game full of great maps, right? Kind of like the early leaks were suggesting that they were going to fill it full of like all these old throwback, you know, Modern Warfare 2 classic maps like Favela and Terminal, like all the stuff that actually appears in DMZ and on the Al Mazrah map. If this game was like full of fantastic maps and still had the kind of like the great underlying systems, you know, once again, besides the perk system, but all the great underlying systems, this would have been probably a top 5 game. Easily a top 5 game. But Activision business policies are kind of pushing back and pushing this game's development in just an unhealthy way. Also, they're just too spread out. You know, full stop. Like, I'm not a game developer, and I'm definitely not a game producer. I'm not a game publisher. I don't know anything about the business, really. But I think even as kind of an armchair kind of observer of the games industry, you can tell that they just have too many cooks in the kitchen. They're trying to service too many audiences simultaneously. And they're not doing a great job of it because, you know, look, cough, cough, they put fucking pay-to-win skins in DMZ, which is like super frustrating and annoying too. Squandered potential. This game could have been amazing. They fumbled on the 5-yard line, but I still like it. I still enjoy it. You know, is it an all-time great? No, but is it a lot better than some of the other titles on this list? Sure, absolutely. I still play it. I firmly believe in its kind of spot on this list. I hope, fingers crossed, that maybe, you know, the last couple DLC drops, the last couple seasons will kind of help round it out. Also, like, the seasons have just been whack in general. Like, what the fuck are y'all doing? Like, seriously, whoever's running your DLC is just not, they don't know what they're doing. Like, the boys, like, for real, y'all decided to, like, late game just ruin Warzone completely with some superhero shit? Like, what are y'all doing? You're missing the point. Get your shit together. But still, I like Modern Warfare 2. It's an okay game. Call of Duty 4, the original Modern Warfare, one of the GOATs. This is really the game that started it all. It's the first time we saw kill streaks, first time we saw create a class, first time we saw perks. A bunch of the maps that are in this game have come back time and time again throughout the franchise because they're so damn good. Modern Warfare didn't just change the Call of Duty franchise, it changed FPS gaming in general, like across the industry. And even now in 2023, this game plays fantastic. I would highly suggest playing the Modern Warfare remastered version versus the original. The original just, you know, it's got 2007 graphics, man. This is not as crispy. The new version, it's just as good. The stuff they added as well didn't really break the game, so it's not that offensive. And although I hate fucking loot boxes, I do have to say this was the best and most reasonable implementation of loot boxes the franchise has ever seen. The maps are great, the guns are great, everything's great, the shooting is great. I love this game. It's really incredible. So why is it so low? Unfortunately, it's just, by today's standards, it's a little bare bones, you know? There's just not a lot going on. You know, Modern Warfare 2 kind of, you know, evolved every one of these systems in a great way. You know, it really kind of, you know, create a class and was forever changed. And the, you know, of course, pick 10 eventually with Treyarch games. What we have here, you know, it's just, you know, it's pretty basic. That's the problem. It's really good and it's really fun, but I think in a world where we're all so accustomed to having so many things to work towards, to achieve, you know, so many challenges, so much this, so much that, Call of Duty 4 doesn't really offer that ridiculous level of depth. But for me personally, it's definitely a game I can always jump back on and return to. I'm never that far away from a copy of Call of Duty 4. That shit, Showdown can break out at any moment, you know what I'm saying? And I hope basic doesn't come across as a negative, because sometimes simple is exactly what you're in the mood for. Like, it's focused, it's lean, it's mean, it's really lethal. And because there's less RNG, there's no care packages, there's a lot less random shit going on. It tends to be like the better team wins. Like Call of Duty 4, of all the modern Call of Duties, feels the most fair. It's an iconic title, its excellence is timeless, and frankly, I don't want to live in a world where Call of Duty 4 isn't considered a fun game. It's one of the greatest for a reason. Absolutely fantastic. I love this game. Modern Warfare 3. Man, this is where the list got really tough for me. These games, these are all just so incredible. Modern Warfare 3, I've recently re-fallen in love with it, actually. I started playing it again, and I am having so much fun. When it dropped, it kind of felt like a toned down version of Modern Warfare 2, but I think over the years we've all discovered just how brilliant this game actually is. Gunplay's great, maps are great. I mean, the only thing that's got like some muddy visuals to it. I mean, if that's the only thing I could really say that's a criticism. Well, maybe not the only thing. Like, I do wish the DLC was a little better. Like, the DLC here is just fucking tragic, you know. So when you're playing Modern Warfare 3, you're really just playing the base game, and although it's fantastic, there's not a lot to really sink your teeth into. Like, it gets a session of Modern Warfare 3 gets pretty old pretty quick if you're not having a good night. You can play for an hour or two and basically play every map that, you know, is good on the game. And I mean, yeah, they did tone a lot of things down from Modern Warfare 2 to try to make it a little less outrageous, but also they innovated. Like, this is the first time we had specialists, which is like a crazy fun kill streak idea. But, you know, they've done a lot of things to make this game fantastic. I think Modern Warfare 3 deserves a lot of respect, and holy fuck, when you go back and play it now, it is so good. It is so good. If you gave this game a new HD coat of paint and released it today, it would still be a mega hit. It's just that good. Okay, these last three were practically impossible for me, but number 3, Black Ops 1. This game is the total package. It's got incredible gameplay, incredible visuals, incredible everything. The maps are amazing. The gunplay is awesome. The fucking, like, every weapon feels awesome to use. And, like, it offers, like, this, like, really fun diversity of gameplay styles and different things you can do. They deepened the multiplayer experience with COD points. Like, before money COD points, they were like fake COD points. And you could, you know, do the wager matches and play One in the Chamber and gun game. And, oh, they made everything was in service of bringing joy to Call of Duty players. And Treyarch did such a wonderful job with this game. And it's still so incredibly fun. One of the little subtle things that I love is that your perk 1 choice has a huge impact over the game, whether it's lightweight or ghost or flak jacket, and your player model represents that choice. So at a glance, you can tell, oh, that person has lightweight. Oh, that there's a ghillie suit. That person's not on the radar. Made the gameplay a lot more transparent. And so as a player, you were given extra information that you could then use to inform your decisions as you played. It was moody. It also was kind of campy. It had like a weird, peculiar sense of humor. There aren't a ton of things that are super duper obnoxious. A few things. I mean, I personally hate motion sensors. That shit just annoys me. There, you know, the weird balance of Black Ops 1, it always feels like there's something that's going to be mildly annoying, and there's a counter to everything, but you can't counter everything that's annoying. You're always going to have to deal with one disadvantage at least, which is like really interesting gameplay design, because generally Call of Duty tries to like make you feel really powerful and shit all the time, but they're like, okay, cool, you know what, if you don't want to be on the motion sensor, people are going to hear your footsteps. Boom, done. Make your decision. Do you want ninja or do you want hacker? What do you want? I know snipers weren't super duper pleased with this gameplay, but I think at the end of the day too, sniping on Black Ops 1 ultimately ended up becoming this kind of like badge of honor. Yeah, like anybody can quickscope a fucking intervention, right? But if you could actually like get some crispy headshots on fucking BO1, you were actually like a real deal good sniper. Shotguns got a little underserved, but you know what though? My stakeout is kind of like a sleeper hit. Nobody uses the stakeout, and it's actually fucking really good. Shh. Don't tell anybody. It's my secret in 2023. Like, if I could have full lobbies of Black Ops 1 multiplayer for the rest of my life, like, I would get rid of every other game, basically. It's not, I don't think it's the best, but it just, what it has on offer is so diverse and so amazing that I could find myself entertained all the time. There's always something to do to fit whatever mood you're in. If you're feeling goofy, if you're feeling sweaty and competitive, man, fuck, dude. Like, Black Ops 1 always has something that's going to scratch your itch. Okay, we're almost at number 1. So, number 2, Modern Warfare 2. Man, I almost put this one at number 1. I love this game. It's annoying. Everything is overpowered. Everything is chaotic. It's cartoonishly over the top, and it's bliss. For those that were there in 2009, like, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Like, that was just like a moment in culture. That was a moment in history that we all experienced together. I refuse to believe it's nostalgia, though, because every single time I go back to it, I'm like, oh, I forgot. This is like one of the greatest games ever made. It plays fast, it plays fun, it's super colorful. The kill streak revamp, where it's like suddenly it's like we don't just have 3, 5, 7 anymore. You have a whole huge list of kill streaks that you could choose from to match your playstyle. The deepening of the perk system was also really interesting. Although pro perks, I don't know how I feel about pro perks. Like, I'm just gonna use the perk until I get the pro version. Like, I don't know I don't really know what that gameplay system's trying to get me to do, besides just like rewarding me for playing with stopping power. Like, okay, cool, I don't, whatever. The map's iconic, the gunplay, fucking perfection. The memes, mwah, amazing. Modern Warfare 2 isn't just a great Call of Duty game, it's one of the greatest games of all time. And in my opinion, second only to one other game, and that is our number 1. Before we get to that, I'm sure you can tell, process of elimination, you know what it is, but just really quick, I just wanted to thank you for watching the video and hanging out with me. Really appreciate you. Really appreciate your support. If you made it this far, you're awesome. Number 1, the best multiplayer Call of Duty of all time, Black Ops 2. If you know me, you knew this was what I was about to pick. Like, I have been such an advocate of Black Ops 2 for so long. To me, it's practically perfect. A few maps here and there kind of miss, but at the end of the day, I find that the balance is perfect. The ratio of annoyance to fun is pretty spot on. I always felt like there was an option, a path, something I could do as a player, a countermeasure. I love that. When you give me the tools to like be a total bully, I'm probably gonna love the game. And I could run in there with a shotgun or a submachine gun and get busy. It was like amazing. I love this game. Or I could be the jerk sitting in the room with the fucking microwave. You know what I'm saying? I can't remember what that thing was called. That was the weirdest kill streak. It also had like weird, quirky kill streaks. It had such personality, such flavor, so much fun. I think Black Ops 2 is about as good as any shooter has the right to be. I am absolutely dying for a Black Ops 2 remake. I would do anything, and I mean anything, to get an HD remake with like updated netcode. That would just be fucking incredible. I can't even believe it's been 10 years too. Like, I'd say I hope that they put out another game as good as Black Ops 2, but frankly, I think we're lucky to have a game that's this amazing. But that is my list. That is the ranking. Drop a comment down below. Let me know what your favorites are. Just drop your whole list. I'd love to hear what you guys think. What are your favorite CODs and what are your least favorite CODs? But thanks again. Hope you have a wonderful day, and we'll talk again very, very, very soon.